Hi, I'm Andrew McKeever with the GNAT News Project. Wanted to bring you up to date on the results from Tuesday's primary voting, both locally and across the state. Overall, as you all know by now, Phil Scott and Randy Brock won the governorship and lieutenant governorship races for the Republican primary. And over on the Democratic side, Sue Minter and David Zuckerman were the winners for the governorship and lieutenant governor races, respectively. Breaking down the results so more locally, in Manchester, Sue Minter won 213 votes to Matt Dunn's 124, Peter Galbraith coming in third with 25. The Republican primary, Phil Scott came in second to Bruce Lisman, who he defeated in the statewide level. Lisman got 217 votes to Scott's 130. In the lieutenant governor's race in the Democratic primary, a three-way contest between David Zuckerman, Shap Smith, and Keisha Ram. The results were as follows. Smith got 120, Zuckerman 117, and Keisha Ram 104. So a very close finish there between all three of those contestants. Up in Dorset, Sue Minter won 140 votes to Matt Dunn's 102, with again Peter Galbraith coming in third at 28. Bruce Lisman carried Dorset like he did Manchester, winning that town by 110 votes to Phil Scott's 71. The lieutenant governor's race on the Democratic side, Shap Smith won 93 votes. He took that town. Zuckerman finished second with 82, and Keisha Ram with 71 votes. Voter turnout, we might add, before we go through some of these other towns, is also pretty strong. There was a lot of speculation earlier that the August 9th date would be kind of not voter friendly in terms of turnout. That turned out not to be the case, however. Statewide, about 25% of the electorate made it to the polls. And just sort of going by some numbers we have here, looks like we sort of matched that, at least here in Bennington County. In Manchester, for instance, 733 voters out of a checklist of 3,685 made it to the polls. That was the best showing we've had since, going back several years. 2010, the primary that year saw 562 voters out of about 3,400 make it. So we had about 20% of the vote of voters on the checklist casting ballots.
Usually we have about 5 to 6%, and this year we've had about 18% so far at approximately 545.
And how was early voting this year? Were there a lot of
about 125, which is higher than usual.
Okay.
So it's decent for a turnout for a primary.
In Bennington, same story. About 1,700 votes were cast out of a total checklist of about 8,600. According to the town clerk down there, that was one of the best showings they have seen in a primary election in several years. Just running down through some other towns here. Up in Londonderry, Sue Minter got 84 votes to Matt Dunn's 70. Peter Galbraith at 29. In the lieutenant governor's race there, David Zuckerman won 73 to 65 over Shap Smith. Keisha Ram at 29. Bruce Lisman, again, bucking the statewide trend, carried Londonderry by 57 votes to Phil Scott's 39. Down in Arlington, Sue Minter 101, Matt Dunn 83, Peter Galbraith 17. In the Republican governor's race, again, Bruce Lisman winning that town, 86 to 58 votes for Phil Scott. And the Democrat lieutenant governor's race, won by Shap Smith, the former House Speaker who's going to be stepping down at by next January. He took Arlington's 79 votes to David Zuckerman's 55. Keisha Ram, I should point out, the second place finisher there with 60 votes. Up in Winhall, however, Matt Dunn prevailed up there in the race. Matt won 47 votes to Sue Minter's 32. Peter Galbraith, basically the next door neighbor from over in Townsend, only got 8 votes in Winhall. In the lieutenant governor's race on the Democratic side, again, close race between Zuckerman and Smith. Zuckerman won 33 to 30, Keisha Ram with 20. And then in the Republican side in the governor's race there, Bruce Lisman won Winhall with 50 votes to Scott's 29. And we should add at this point that also we didn't mention the Republican lieutenant governor's race because, of course, there was only one candidate former state senator Randy Brock, who was the GOP's candidate for governor in 2012. He is running this year for lieutenant governor and is obviously going to be their candidate come the general election in November. So you can go to the Secretary of State's website for all the other towns and the breakdown, but interesting voting pattern, good turnout, and on to November we go. There are a couple of other items on the ballot as well in a couple of towns, in addition to electing primary winners. Up in Win Hall, voters there approved the sale of the former Win Hall Elementary School to the town. The vote was a overwhelming 170 to 15. That will allow the town to not only acquire the school building from the school board, the former owners, but also now can turn around and sell it to the Mountain School of Win Hall, which currently occupies the school and operates their school there. This was a measure that kind of arose out of Act 46, which will allow Win Hall to keep the proceeds from the sale of the school building in the town itself, as opposed to sharing it with other towns which may become their merger partners under Act 46 as that discussion goes forward. Also in Dorset, there was a vote to equalize the fire tax rates between the two fire districts in Dorset and East Dorset. That passed by an overwhelming margin, 407 to 59, and so that will be a case now where voters in East Dorset will not be paying a higher fire tax rate than was the case for the town of Dorset. And finally, a couple of program notes. Earlier this week, we had Carol DuPont, who's the Republican Party's committee chairwoman, here at the studio, along with Michael Keene, her Democrat counterpart. Michael is the Democratic Party chairman. And to talk a little bit about the election, you can watch that here on GNet. A couple of interesting points were made by both of them. One on the role of the Bill McKibben switching of an endorsement from Matt Dunn to Sue Minter, how damaging that may have been to Matt Dunn's campaign.
So much the issue of the wind turbine placing as much as Bill McKibben's pronouncement about it and the withdrawal of McKibben's own endorsement of Matt Dunn may have had more public resonance than Matt's changing his position. The Bill McKibben withdrawal of an endorsement, that's a pretty surprising and harsh thing to do at a late point in a campaign. That probably counted for a lot because McKibben is very well known and respected by an awful lot of people.
You might also find Carol DuPont's comments on whether or not or how well supporters of Bruce Lisman will be willing to go and help now support Phil Scott. A very contentious campaign, as you all know. So we'll wait and see how Mr. Scott is able to bring the Lisman supporters back on board.
I think that'll depend on Phil Scott, how he embraces the people again. Yeah. Sometimes it's the leadership that has to welcome people. It's not the people that have done the job someplace else. So I think that depends on Phil Scott, but we're certainly going to back the Republican candidate.
Okay.
But I would like to see him maybe pay attention to some of the things that were written about him.
Okay.
Okay?
All right. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again next time.